Hi friends, this is Marilyn from tarotclarity.com, and I'm really excited today because I just got the word from Krisztin and William from Artisan Tarot that I'm allowed to finally do the video on their Jacques Viéville tarot. They're going to be releasing it on Tuesday, they said. Today is Monday, so I'm imagining that's tomorrow, September 22nd. I don't know when they sent this to me. It must have been several months ago, a long time, and I've been chomping at the bit to do a video ever since. But they asked me not to because they weren't doing a Kickstarter. They're going to be selling it directly from their artisan shop, and I will have that link below, down below. So I do have three other Viéville decks. When you like a deck, you have a couple. I have the whose is this one? Oh, the Peterson, the Joseph Peterson, which might be the one I end up comparing it to on video. I do have the Civilixy, the Civilixy deck, which I think is the same as the Coke deck. Let me see. Yeah, this is by Patrick Coke. This is the Civilixy deck by Patrick Coke. And some of you, probably most of us, are familiar with this one because it's been around for a long time. And I also have the I'm having a lot of trouble remembering today. The Flournoy. Oh man, the Flournoy. Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. I have a lot on my mind. And I also have the Flournoy. Now the Flournoy deck is, for those of you who are familiar, we got two versions. We got the way it appears in the museum, and then the reversal, which is probably the correct way. So Flournoy gave us the two versions, and Peterson gave us, I believe, the version as it appears in the museum. And I think I'm going to compare the Artisan so that you get a side-by-side between the Peterson and the Flournoy. I'll put it in the middle of these. So for those of you who are familiar with the Flournoy and the Peterson, then you'll get an understanding of what the Artisan looks like in comparison to those. I'm not going to use the Civilixy because it's murkier, and most of us are familiar with it anyway. So let me flip the camera. Okie doke. So I have the Peterson, the Flournoy, both flanking the Artisan. And I included these two cards on top just to show you that this is the pin that they'll be including, and they get the pin inspiration usually from one of the cards. So we'll keep our eye on which card that might be. Now, naturally, the Flournoy is really cleaned up. So let's start with a comparison to that. So it's very similar. They made some other color choices. The green is more of an olive green and less bright here. I know that one of the remarks I made when I reviewed the deck for them and gave them my opinion, that I felt that the mane of the creature, I felt that was representing a mane, because in some early decks it was ambiguous whether it was a cat or some type of feline or a dog. And since even in the early deck here, even in the Civilixie, we have what looks like it could have been a mane of the cat. And I've seen the most up-to-date version of this, and I noted that they did retain the mane of the cat. So again, the Artisan deck has sublime cardstock. It's got that linen cardstock that many of us love. It's a riffle shuffler's dream. And I'll tell you the truth, I don't typically riffle shuffle, but when I riffle shuffle, I frequently riffle shuffle their decks because they were made to riffle shuffle. And it's a pleasure to do it. So you see it's clean, right? And not at all murky. I thought the Petersons was, heads and tails less murky than the Civilixie, but in comparison to the Fleur Noir and the Peterson, the Artisan is closer to the Fleur Noir in being clean and crisp. But maybe closer to the facsimile deck than not. So the table is a solid gray rather than in spots. So Fleur Noir chose to make the yellows or the golds, bright yellow, but the Civilixie, which is, I guess, as close to a facsimile deck as there can be, really, it is more in keeping with what Artisan chose to do. The orange is a lot closer to the facsimile deck than it is to the Fleur Noir deck. And closer than the Peterson. And where Artisan usually stands out is in the clothing and the garment, where things kind of get confusing or garbled a little bit. They clean it up, make it a little easier to see what you're looking at. Of all Artisan's decks, this has been my favorite one so far. And this is only a preview deck. Now, they're not doing Kickstarter, so when you purchase the deck at their website, it's going to be the final deck. And I don't have anything to compare it to because I haven't gotten a final copy yet. But I will for sure do a side-by-side of that as well, because the other side-by-sides I did with other deck makers who, and with Artisan who, give me preview decks, it's kind of nice to see the thinking process. Now, this is a beautiful comparison. Beautiful. I mean, for it to be compared with a Fleur Noir, which is sublime as well. I'm sorry for all the noise. It's a lovely day, so the window is opened. So maybe at this stage, I'll stop comparing it to other decks because I think you're getting the gist, right? They're keeping the, the main ingredients, the different colors on the stockings. They just darkened in areas that are sort of sketchy. Maybe the ink didn't adhere well. And I think you get the gist of how they changed the color, you know, a little bit from Fleur Noir, who wasn't doing a facsimile deck anyway. You know, Fleur Noir's deck is not a facsimile deck. Here's what the facsimile from Civilixie would look like. So you see that Peterson and Civilixie have the gradation on the shoulder of the emperor, whereas Artisan made it solid. I don't know if they kept the solid areas solid or if they attempted to make it more shaded in their final version. I haven't heard anything about making it more shaded, so I'm believing that they've kept it a solid. No one's told me otherwise. So let's put these guys aside and just give the Artisan its due attention. Lovely. I have it on good authority. Oh, that's lovely. I love the Fortitude card, and that's just delicious. I have it on good authority that they're creating a pouch for this. So you'll be able to buy the deck, the pouch, and a pin, I think for under $100, like $93. At their wow. I think at the moment that's what's currently being made available. So always, you know, with the Viéville, you know, I've never known if this is a walking stick or an optical illusion created by the side hem of the cloak and how it just falls, you know, like this. It's ambiguous at best to know exactly what we're looking at. And they've retained that. And we have the Hanged Man, so familiar to most of us in the Viéville as being uprighted, the number 12. But this is the way it was printed. In the original. The luscious purple. So nice, so luscious. So this is one of the cards, aside from the Hanged Man, where we know that it was printed in reverse. And we know this because of the wording here. Beautiful. Let me pause this and grab the Tower card or the Thunder card or the Lightning card. There's no lightning here actually, so it must be the Thunder card. And let's see how well we can see the sheep in the other decks. So in the Civilixie, which is a facsimile, you know they're little creatures, but you can't make them out. There's no confusion here. I mean, you could almost like look at this in passing and think it's a bush or something, right? And here, Fleur Noir makes it more clear. And the Peterson is more in keeping with the Civilixie, kind of vague. So you definitely know what you're looking at in this card, and all the cards pretty much. And they have that luscious purple. It's like a brown purple. Oh gosh, I am so thrilled. I just think it's beautiful. I think I mentioned it already. It's my favorite of their decks so far. They did a great job. With very few things, I felt that, you know, I mean, who am I? I mean, I'm not anybody, but there were just a few things that I commented on that I, you know, would have liked to have seen, you know, be different. And as far as I know, I think they made those adjustments to everything. So I'm really, really looking forward to the completed deck. I'm just going to hold this in my hand. And you know, it isn't like cookie cutter kind of computerized done, because you can see it's got a little bit of a wonkiness to it, just like the original, you know, like a wonky balance of, you know, that's still there. You know, the thin lines, you know, the irregularity of the, like they kept that. They kept that. But they made the piercing real, you know, they always do so well with the swords and the batons, with the crisscrossing. It's like beautiful. It's artistry. But they kept most of the wonkiness, which I appreciate as a person who loves historic decks. And I love reading from the historic decks because they're wonky. But I also appreciate liking and knowing, you know, what I'm looking at. You can see here, you know, this side, it's in keeping with the original. So they didn't just make cookie cutter, you know, templates for the swords and batons or anything. They honored what was there. They just brought it to modernize in a way that modernize can appreciate what we're looking at. You know, had we been born in the 1600s, you know, maybe we would already readily understand what we were looking at. But in the areas where things are kind of wonky and murky from the years and years of time passing, we might not always know what we're looking at. And so that's why I appreciate Fleur Noir and Artisan for, I don't want to say cleaning it up, but for, oh, it's so pretty, for just making it more accessible to us. Look at that. Now, I don't think that's a detail we would see. Let me pause and pull the King of Swords from the other decks. Okay, so we know that Flournoy passed away before he was able to create a completed deck of the Viéville. He only had the trump cards, 2 versions of the trump cards. I don't know if he had ever intended to complete it or not, but as it is, he passed away and then it wasn't done. So here in the Peterson, we do see that there's something, but I wouldn't have probably paid much attention to it here as well in the Civilixie. But here in the Artisan, it's very clearly an embellishment on the case of the sword. I guess it's a sword case. You can see how pretty it is, the sheath. But the sword is so much longer than the sheath, huh? Unless that's another sword, a smaller one. And now we're on to the baton. I'm not as sharp today. I apologize. I have a few painkillers in me, so. But I was just so excited that I was allowed to show this, that I'm showing it. I don't care how I feel. This makes me feel so much happier. You know, this makes me feel so good, knowing that it's coming out soon. You can order it tomorrow. So I don't think you can order it just at artisantarot.com. I think they have a more specific link, like, which is why I want you to, if you want to purchase it, to go down below and purchase it at the proper link. I want to make sure you go to the right spot. But this, I've used this deck multiple times for readings, and I love it. It reads well. It feels good. It looks good. And there are a few little quips by Viéville, by Viéville, rather, excuse me. A few little, like, written. Wow, look at that. All just beautiful, 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 beautiful. Now here we have the poem. Okay, here's another case in point. The poem, which is written, I wish I could read French, but it's been translated a number of times by different folks. And it tells you the cards that are listed. I think there's like 2 that are not listed, but they're still in the deck. So now where? Maybe here. The 3 of Coins might be the inspiration for their leaf, their logo rather, their motif. I'm not sure. But I thank you for bearing with me while I'm showing this deck, because I know I'm not as exciting as usual. Not that I'm ever exciting, to be honest. Oh, I noticed that I'm like only 2 or 3 people away from being 1,000 subscribers, so yay. I've been around a long time. I'm slow to the, what's it called? When you're slow to the finish line? The slow and steady wins the race, baby. That's what I say. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this video, and I certainly hope that this video has inclined you to purchase this deck. I'm putting the link down below, and I can't wait to get it, to tell you the truth. Until next time, friends, peace and stay well.